I got.
Kendrick Lamar really needs no introduction. The Compton rapper has been at the top of the music industry since he released his critically acclaimed album, Good Kid, Mad City. The follow-up project, To Pimp a Butterfly, saw Lamar tackle issues such as police brutality, capitalism, and self-actualization. His most recent solo album, Damn, has won a Pulitzer Prize and has garnered widespread popularity, more than any of his previous works. Lamar also produced the soundtrack for the Black Panther movie in 2018, which was an ode to his African roots and African spirituality. This topic will be the focus of this video. To preface, I'd like to say that Kendrick Lamar's music is filled with religious and spiritual references, allegories, metaphors, and symbols. However, as he is a practicing Christian, to my knowledge, most of these references are centered around Christianity. In this video, I will be concentrating on the African spiritual and religious references in his music. Diving into my personal favorite Kendrick Lamar song, King Kunta, we can see some themes that tie back to pre-colonial Africa. For those who don't know, Kunta Kinte is a fictional character in the book-turned-television show Roots. Kunta is a slave brought from Africa and comes from the Mandinka tribe. Today, the Mandinka people practice Islam primarily, however, they have retained some of the beliefs of their pre-Islamic traditions. One important aspect of syncretic Mandinka belief is the role of the Jali. Jali is a storyteller, oftentimes a musician. The role is to pass down information and lessons through oral tradition. Alex Haley, the man who originally wrote Roots and Kunta Kinte's story, will learn that his family was originally from the Mandinka tribe, and they were the Jali of their respective tribe. The concept of the Jali is meant to be a hereditary position that reaches back from the ancestors and gives to the people of today, an idea we will discuss later. The word Jali originates from the word blood, as it highlights the hereditary nature of the role. Interestingly enough, the first track on Kendrick Lamar's 2017 album Damn is titled Blood, and sees Lamar retelling a story, spoken word style, of him getting shot by a blind woman, a metaphor many believe represents his frustrations with the US justice system or with God. Back to King Kunta. Lamar raps the lyric,
The yam is the power that be. You can smell it when I'm walking down the street.
Oh yes we can, oh yes we can.
Yams are a significant symbol in West Africa, especially among the Ashanti people. Every year, the Ashanti people have a festival where they celebrate the harvest of the yams. It is also significant in the Igbo society and plays a symbolic role in the novel Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, a fantastic African story on colonization. In the book, Achebe writes, "Yam, the king of crops, was a man's crop." Of course, this furthers the royalistic undertones of the song, but also ties the yams to the idea of masculinity. In African society, yams are a symbol of power and masculinity, as well as wealth and good fortune. Lamar raps later in the song,
The yam brought it out of Richard Pryor. Manipulated Bill Clinton with desires.
Lamar is making a statement on our twisted concept of manhood, implying that drugs, lust, power, and greed are all associated with what we believe to be masculinity, a theme that is further explored throughout his music. He uses the significance of yams in African religion to make this statement. Achebe uses the yams in his book to make a similar assertion. Later in the album To Pimp a Butterfly comes the song Complexion, A Zulu Love. The song is about colorism and loving one another despite racial barriers. It is founded on the South African philosophy of Ubuntu. The concept of Ubuntu is that everyone exists in a community and that everything that is done in the interest of the community. According to the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, in Southern African traditional thought, being is understood in the communal, physical, and spiritual sense. Thus, a human being is always in communion with other human beings as well as with the spiritual world. Ahmed Sékou Touré, the first president of Guinea and a Mandinka himself, has called Ubuntu the communion of persons. The concept of being or existing implies us or we, as opposed to the Western concept of I. Descartes' Western concept of I think, therefore I am, is paralleled with the African concept of we are, therefore I am. John S. Mbiti, a Kenyan theologian, put this definition into words. Circling back to the song Complexion, A Zulu Love, Lamar attempts to tackle the colorism that Western media and capitalism have imposed upon the world and our collective understanding of beauty and self-worth. He says that Ubuntu is a stronger connection between us all, and that humanity is stronger together than apart. This concept runs much deeper than this sole song and is one of the key principles of the album. Lamar's frustrations with himself and his community is part of what led him to make To Pimp a Butterfly. These grievances can be seen all over the album. However, most notably, Ubuntu stands out on the dichotomous tracks You and I. On the song You, Lamar voices his inner conflicts and grief. He raps,
Loving you is complicated. Loving you is complicated. Loving you is complicated. Loving you is complicated.
and laments on his hypocrisy of rapping about black empowerment, yet himself failing to be a strong role model for his younger sister and experiencing extreme survival's guilt for making it out of Compton while some of his friends died along the way. This hypocrisy reaches the climax on the song Blacker the Berry, where we find Lamar at his boiling point with himself and the black community across America, mourning the deaths of Trayvon Martin and various other victims to racial violence. In my opinion, Lamar delivers a blood-curdling performance on this song and gives the audience an opportunity to ponder what it means to feel guilt and remorse. Lamar writes,
I'm the biggest hypocrite in 2015.
and later critically declares,
It's funny how Zulu and Xhosa might go to war. Two tribal armies that want to build and destroy. Remind me of these Compton Crip gangs that live next door. Beefing with power rules, only death settled the score. So no matter how much I say I like to preach with the Panthers, or tell Georgia State Marcus Garvey got all the answers, or try to celebrate February like it's my B-Day, or eat watermelon chicken and Kool-Aid on weekdays, or jump high enough to get Michael Jordan endorsements, or watch BET cause urban support is important. So why did I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street? When gang banging make me kill a nigga blacker than me.
Lamar voices his ultimate frustration in this confession that he himself has contributed to the violence in his own community, despite the perception of him by many to be a figure of peace and black empowerment. This leads directly into a culminating moment for the album, I, where Lamar gives the audience his resolution to these conflicts as he chants, This song contrasts the earlier You. On You, Lamar is disassociating not only with himself, but with the black community as a whole. This horseshoes back to I, where we find Lamar celebrating his identity despite the challenges that continue to face him and his community. The song is intended to be an anthem for his community, and the word I is not meant to solely represent himself, but his entire community, as he merges his personal identity with that of his community to create the all-encompassing I. The concept of You is dissolved, as Lamar completely assimilates his identity with his community. This declaration and journey is one of accepting Ubuntu in his life. If Complexion of Zulu Love is where Lamar discovers the concept of Ubuntu, then it is fair to say that Blacker the Berry is where he scrutinizes himself and his community for not exercising it, and I is where he finally applies it and amalgamates his happiness and enlightenment with his communal brothers and sisters. Lamar universalizes his experience to allow the members of his community to celebrate their identity in the face of the beast. The beast here being capitalism, racism, and Western individualism. Lamar fittingly raps on the final song of the album, Mortal Man.
The ghost of Mandela, hope my flow stay propelling.
The words of Nelson Mandela perfectly sum up the concept of Ubuntu.
Ubuntu does not mean that people should not enrich themselves. The question, therefore, is, are you going to do so in order to enable the community around you to be able to improve? These are the important things in life. And if one can do that, you have done something very important which will be appreciated.
Kendrick Lamar's Damn is a deeply religious album that touches on various theological bases for inspiration. The second track, DNA, is founded on the principle of ancestry. Here we see Lamar rapping the words,
I got royalty inside my DNA.
Of course, it wouldn't be a Kendrick Lamar song if it wasn't related to black empowerment. So this lyric can be interpreted to say that while in the United States black people are often subjected to poverty, the DNA of their ancestors carry royalty and prestige. As stated before, the communion that Ubuntu is founded on is not only the communion with the physical world, but with the spiritual world as well. Participation with God and the lesser spirits is what defines being. When I say lesser spirits, I refer to those that exist in between God and humanity. There are essentially two categories of spirits: those that were created as spirits and those that were humans at one point in time but have passed away. Different groups and peoples have different spirits that they recognize and of which they have different jobs and purposes. Some are the associates of God and some are simply living among humans as their own race. Ancestral spirits are held in high regard and are sometimes feared for the power they wield. Communion with ancestral spirits is a very common practice in African societies. They believe that ancestors maintain a sort of connection with their living relatives, and that the ancestors can bless the living relatives' good fortune and prosperity. These ancestral relationships are a cornerstone of African traditional religions and cultures as a whole. It is a part of the micro everyday life and the macro circle of life. This concept is also the cornerstone for the Black Panther soundtrack, produced and arranged by Kendrick Lamar. For those who haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but the theme of ancestry is very important for the story and thus its album. Lamar writes on the title track,
King of my city, king of my country, king of my homeland, king of the filthy, king of the fallen, we living again. King of the shooters, looters, boosters, and ghettos popping. King of the past, present, future, my ancestors watching.
This continues the theme of King Kunta, where Lamar proclaims to be the king and channels his ancestors' regality for his poetry. He continues the proclamations in this song about being the king of various symbols and figures. As I mentioned earlier, the role of the Jali is to give lessons to the descendants and people of the community through music. Lamar is doing that exactly, and amplifies his ancestral history by listing various things that he is the king of. He also does this in the song DNA, where he raps,
I know murder, conviction, burners, boosters, burglars, ballers, dead, redemption, scholars, fathers dead with kids, and I wish I was fed forgiveness. Yeah, soldiers' DNA.
Lamar has voiced multiple times in the past his personal duty to carry on the legacy of Tupac Shakur. In an interview with MTV, he stated,
You said something about having a vision of Pac, or having a dream. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
It's a true story actually, and it's a real situation where I was asleep one night, man, and his blur like a silhouette, and he basically said, "Keep doing what you're doing. Don't let my music die." And shit scared the shit out of me. Real shit. Once he said that shit, and I'm really big on shit like that, spiritual shit like that. Somebody comes in your dream and it relays a message.
You gotta listen.
You gotta listen to it, because I got past family relatives that's been passed and been coming to my dreams forever. I mean, and talking to me.
Lamar hasn't only made this apparent through his dream, however. He has also incorporated Shakur's lyrical and sonical themes into his own music as well, even going as far as to interview Shakur from the dead on his song Mortal Man. The parallels between Lamar and Shakur's music run remarkably deep and are very much a topic for another essay. The point here is that Lamar's dedication to the role of Jali is very strong, and he incorporates it into everything he does. On his 2012 song Real, Lamar includes a voicemail from his mother that says,
If I don't hear from you by tomorrow, I hope you come back and learn from your mistakes and come back a man. Tell your story to these black and brown kids in country. Let them know you was just like them, but you still rose from that dark place of violence, becoming a positive person. But when you do make it, give back with your words of encouragement. And that's the best way to give back.
In the song All the Stars, the lead single for the Black Panther movie, SZA sings the lyrics, In the Bushman tradition, located in southern Africa around Botswana, the mythology follows that ancestors are manifested as celestial objects. So the sun, moon, sky, stars, and constellations are all various ancestors. This tradition also maintains that dreams are a way to access the spirits and ancestors, and sometimes even God. Therefore, the lyric has the implication of spirits, specifically ancestral spirits, visiting SZA and giving her information or advice, as is seen in the Black Panther movie. The music video for All the Stars features many references to African religious symbols and imagery, such as a representation of the god Oshun and hieroglyphs on the walls. The presence of ancestral spirits in Lamar's music is ever present and an interesting look into the possibility of syncretism in his personal religious beliefs. Many scholars and followers of African religion critique these Afrofuturist style artists like Kendrick Lamar, Janelle Monáe, and Beyonce. These artists all include African religious concepts in their music and art. Many people find such inclusions to be unfounded, incorrect, or misrepresenting of the true culture. One main critique of the style is that it is still geared toward the white gaze, and doesn't exist for the advancement of African people, but for the entertainment of white people. Another critique is that the references within the music are not correct representations of African religion and spirituality. Although this essay is centered around such references, it is important to note such critiques and keep them in mind when analyzing Afrofuturist music. Kendrick Lamar's music is profoundly religious, and adopts many spiritual concepts and philosophies to aid his overarching messages. African spirituality and religion is no exception to this. There is no doubt in my mind that there are many more references to be found within Lamar's music, and this video is merely scratching the surface. It is abundantly clear that Kendrick Lamar does his research when writing his music, and offers the audience a beautiful experience of learning, critical thinking, imagining, and of course, rapping.